Cool, cool, cool. Well, thank you so much to those of you who are already here. And for those of you who are catching the recording later, I'm so excited that you wanted to spend this half-hour power session with me to do a quick career check-in and to set up some intentions as well for Q2. So I will be going through quite a few things with you, and I will be moving reasonably quickly because I want to give you as much value as possible in this session. But I also want to make sure that you check out the recording later if something went a little bit too quick for you and you would like to go back and revisit it again. So just 1 second. There we go. All right. Okay. So what you're going to walk away with today from the session is some career coaching and planning tools that anyone can use. I quite often say this, but it's really interesting that a lot of people think that career coaching is only for people who want to change jobs or who are really unhappy. But career coaching is actually something that can help us all the way through our career, even if we have staff members, people reporting into us and things like that. So it's actually tools that anyone can use. So today I'm going to give you an easy to use 3-step or 3-question system so you can reflect on your work or your career steps from Q1, so January to March. And we're also going to talk about your focus and top line action steps for Q2. And like I said to those of you who joined before I started the recording, make sure that you grab a blank document or a pen and paper, and let's get started with the tools that we're going to cover. I'm just quickly going to check that no one is waiting to be let in. No, we're good. All right. So nice to meet you. If we haven't met before, a lot of you on the call and catching the recording have certainly met me before, but my name is Emmy Peterson, and I am originally Swedish but live here in Melbourne, Australia. And in my own career, I've gone through quite a journey from retail and hospitality when I was younger. I spent a bit of time in the States working as a nanny and also studied over there. Moved to the UK for quite a few years, lived in Manchester and did HR admin and finance, and finally ended up here in Australia in 2010, where I've been focusing mostly on sales, project management, marketing, and my one true passion, which is coaching, which is what brings me here to you today. And the reason I share this is because I'm no exception, and a lot of people will have lots of different jobs and passions throughout their career. So there's nothing wrong with having more than one passion in your life, or if you have one quote unquote day job, you can also have other things that you're passionate outside of that. My full-time passion these days is coaching, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. This tool here is something that I often talk about, but it's what I call the 3-legged career stool. And I want to mention it today because we're going to build on these 3 different legs in our review of Q1. So essentially what I've seen, I've coached hundreds and hundreds of hours with people one-on-one. And what I've seen is to have professional flow or to feel good at work, another way of thinking of it, you need to have a couple of things present. There needs to be some level of fun and enjoyment going on, because if there's no fun, we will eventually get tired and leave because it simply doesn't give us anything enjoyable or fun or rewarding. It needs to also be something that we're naturally good at. And this doesn't mean that we shouldn't aim to learn new things or expand our skill set, but it means that we shouldn't be working uphill. So what I mean by that, for example, is to lean into things that you're naturally good at. If you are naturally a good organizer of things and people, make sure that your work actually allows that thing that you're good at to come out. It's really, really important. Naturally still add other things to your arsenal and learn new things and stuff like that, but it's really important that this is present. And finally is what I call healthy challenge. And we're going to unpack this a little bit more in just a second. But essentially, if you're not being challenged in your work environment in a healthy way, you are going to get really bored. And this has happened to me. Hands up, people on the call, if this has ever happened to you in your work. But when you get bored and it gets really mundane, you tend to leave. On the subsequent side, if it's too challenging, if you're always being challenged and problem solving other people's problems at work, you are going to get burnt out. And we are seeing this a lot in workplaces all over the world. And COVID introduced a different way of burnout. As a little side note, if you're curious, I also encourage you to Google the term bore out. So burnout is something that a lot of people are very familiar with, but bore out is what I mentioned before, when we get disengaged and we stop engaging with the things that we're meant to be doing at work because we are bored or we're not challenged. So bore out and burn out are really important phrases to be aware of as you navigate your own career and support the people around you in your workplace. Okay, so let's get to the thing which is why you're here. Let's evaluate Q1. And before we dive into the 3 steps we're going to cover, I want you to ask yourself this question and write down your answer if you want to. Did you actually have a focus or a theme in mind for this quarter at the start of the year? You know, it could have been a New Year's resolution. It could have been an intention you set for yourself. When 2021 wrapped up, did you have a clear intention for yourself, what you wanted Q1 or the first couple of months of the year to be about? Some examples might be something like strong focus on project X at work or recruitment or something like that, or a focus on my health as well as this work thing. So have a quick think about that one and just see and be honest with yourself. Like, quite often when we start the year, I'm certainly guilty of this a lot of the time, I don't have a clear vision, except I'm going to do my best or I set a bit of a goal. So it's very common that we start the year without a professional intention. But that's not all. So let's start thinking about the January-March period of 2022 in the following 3 areas. So as you look back on the past 3 months, what was fun or enjoyable? What made you smile, laugh, or feel thankful, grateful, proud at work? Some examples here might be things like there's a particular person that you just love working with or a particular client. It could be feedback that you had from colleagues or clients or people in your world. Or it could simply be seeing a project that you worked really hard on or a task that you really sunk yourself into and seeing that positive outcome. So take just a minute or 2 and write down in your mind, what were some of the things that really made you smile or feel thankful in Q1? And for those watching or those listening live, if you can't think of anything at all, this happens sometimes. I had this conversation with a client the other week. If you can't think of anything that was fun or enjoyable in the last quarter, you need to urgently move on or change where or how you are working. It's a sign that things are really not all that well, and it can actually make you unwell. So if that is you, please do reach out for a chat with me and we can kind of have a chat about how you can address that as quickly as possible. And don't overthink your answers here either. Just sort of scribble down some of your thoughts or some of the things that are coming up for you here. All right. Hopefully you've got a few things there that made you smile. And this is something I really do encourage you as well to come back to on a regular basis. I quite often do a weekly wrap up. I will be doing it this afternoon. I do it most Fridays. And I think of the things that I'm really happy about or really grateful for in the week that passed. And hopefully you have a few things there, even if you haven't written them down. I hope you've articulated in your mind who or what really made you smile in Q1. And moving along, we're going to look at the second leg of the stool. So the first one was fun and enjoyment. The second leg is what was challenging. This is where a lot of us spend a lot of our time at work or when we're dealing with clients. And I want to make a very clear distinction here. And those people who have a relationship with sport will know what I mean here. There is a big distinction between healthy, helpful challenge, which is something that helps us learn and grow, or for a sports metaphor, the thing that helps us build the muscle. So it can still be difficult, but it's not painful. Whereas a non-helpful challenge is something that wears us down or causes us longer-term pain. I'm going to go through some examples with you, but this is really important when we're talking about challenge. And even if you are responsible for other people, or you have people reporting into you, the challenges that you set these people in your world have to be healthy and helpful wherever possible. So what are some examples here, you might wonder? So for example, a healthy, helpful challenge that builds the muscle, but doesn't cause injury or pain, is something like constructive feedback that helped you change how you do something. Constructive feedback is never about you as a person. It's about an action or a particular outcome or something that happened, which was a task or an action, not who you are. So if someone gives you constructive feedback, so you changed your process or something was improved, a recruitment process, whatever, that can be a healthy, helpful challenge because it's actually giving you more to work with in the future. Another really healthy, helpful challenge, and I see this all the time, is holding a healthy boundary when you work with a difficult person or a difficult client. So it's not uncommon that we, have to take on more at work during particular periods, but learning and flexing the muscle of healthy challenge, aka this is how much I can take on before it's too much, and holding that boundary and being really clear and respectful to yourself that that is how much you can take on or how much you want to take on. On the flip side, some examples of non-helpful challenges that I've seen myself and I've experienced myself, and I've also seen it in many of my clients, is ongoing lack of clarity from either your manager or your leadership team. Most of us don't like uncertainty for extended periods of time. And I know for a lot of people, especially when COVID started, it caused a lot of disruption in many, many workplaces. And I know a few of you on the call are in industries that were really severely impacted by COVID very much overnight. So what we're talking about here is not just the, an acute challenge, like something that happens really quickly, but we're talking about stuff that is ongoing. So if there's ongoing lack of clarity, direction, support, input, or if you're perhaps in a workplace where you never hear the good things, you never get the positive feedback, but the moment something goes wrong, you know about it instantly because people come and tell you. And sometimes several of your leaders will come and tell you at the same time, which makes you naturally feel awful. Or for most people it would. Another non-helpful type of challenge is having to cover for things that are outside of your role that you simply don't have time to do. And I see this often, and I see it more often in females than in males. Perhaps it is that sort of superwoman wanting to look after everything. I'm not really sure, but for a lot of people, this happens. And for those of you on the call or those of you watching the recording, just know that it is not necessarily a badge of honor to wear yourself thin and cause yourself longer term pain. This is when we need to kind of find that healthy boundary and that way to sort of say no. So I trust that this is making sense so far for you. So what I would love for you to do on your blank sheet of paper, on your phone, whatever you're using, think of some of the challenges that you experienced in Q1. Was there a particular person that was really hard to deal with? And if you can, you don't have to do this, but the next step is basically write down some of the challenges that you experienced and put a plus or a minus after them. Plus being that was a healthy, helpful type of challenge, which falls into similar to the first two examples I shared, or put a minus if it was a slightly more negative or not very helpful, not very constructive type of challenge. I'm going to let you scribble down your thoughts there quickly while I take a little drink. Just double check that there are no questions or people in the waiting room. I think we're good. And sometimes this list can get long. So if you have a lot of challenges, don't edit yourself. I'd much rather you be honest with yourself. If Q1 was really hard for you and you could list more than 10 things here, that's okay. Just remember that, look at this sort of challenge list as something to inform your future decisions, not to beat yourself up right now. And by putting those little pluses and minuses next to the type of challenge, you can see as well which of these are helpful for you to continue with. And it's also going to inform our next little step. We good so far? Everyone's still awake? Excellent. Awesome. So that was the second part. So we're going to move on now to the third part, which is, did you focus on what you are naturally good at? I just love puppies, by the way. I had to introduce this little guy because I thought this image was gorgeous. So when we're looking at things that we're good at, again, I want to make a distinction between two very important things here. There are things in the world that we are naturally good at and we love doing them. We really enjoy them. And then there might be other things that you are naturally really good at, but you do not like doing it. So for example, you know, in my world, and I'm just going to share two quick examples here, but I'm happy to provide more if you guys are not sure what this kind of means. So for me, I love putting together and delivering training sessions like this one, thinking about engaging topics, helpful tools, and putting it together and creating training sessions is something I just absolutely love. But something that I'm very good at and often get stuck doing and get a bit resentful about is event management and logistics. I can do it in my sleep. I have done it in many, many past roles, and I've run a lot of events and campaigns in my world as a marketer and a sales professional, but I do not like it. And the challenge here is that if we get stuck in things that we are good at, and you'll know that you're in this territory if someone's like, oh, but you're so good at blah, blah, why don't you pick that up? Or, you know, with that the new staff member we've got coming on board, you're so good at onboarding and staying organized and helping them. Why don't you do that? And sometimes this can come as a weird backhanded compliment, and we have to be really careful here, because if we want to take our career, our work, our business in a certain direction, we need to focus on the first point, which is the things that you're good at and that you like, the things that you're good at that gives you energy and gives you flow. And I see this happen all the time where people spend half a career or a whole career in the second bucket, which is they're really good at it. And they try to tell themselves for a really long time that it's just a job. It's fine. I'll do this for 8 hours a day and then I'll go home to my family or go do my other stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. However, for a lot of people, there is a moment of awakening where they go, where the heck have I spent my last 10 years, 5 years, 15 years? And that is something that I hate to see people wasting their time in something that is just not the thing that lights them up. And I guess another way of thinking about the stuff on the screen at the moment is the difference between good and great. So good, a lot of people are happy sitting and doing things that they're good at. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's fine. I can do this. I can do this for X amount of time. But sitting in that space, that means that you won't get to the emotional connection with great, or whatever great is for you. So that was a very long-winded way of saying, think about the last quarter, January to March, and think about the things, how many things or how many projects or stuff you got to work on that you are good at and that you enjoy. And similar to the previous exercise, just put a little plus next to it in your list. And things that you kind of get stuck on doing. So my example of event management, it happened all the time. It happened in my most recent role where I worked for a company and I came in and did an event. I got wonderful feedback on it, but I didn't necessarily love the experience. And that's nothing to do with them. It's just that I didn't like it. And also obviously it gives me an opportunity to do less of that in the future. So I'm going to give you a moment, if you haven't already, write down a couple of things in Q1 at work that's some things that you're good at, and try and put a little plus or a minus next to them just for your own clarity with yourself. Cool. 10 minutes to go. How are we going? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are we still energized? We're still awake? Beautiful. Those of you watching the recording as well, feel free at any point to pause and go back and look at a slide a little bit longer if you want to. So now that we've looked at this, we are going to move along to set a bit of a calibration or a focus for Q2. And I would really encourage you, even if you're attending live, to reflect on the things that you did, like the good at. I want you to reflect on the challenge, and I want you to reflect on the fun and enjoyment from Q1, because it's really going to help you in Q2 and onwards as you set your goals. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions that are really important to answer. We're already a couple of weeks into Q2, so let's go. If you were going to set a main focus or a main theme for Q2, what would it be? Perhaps something like productivity, or you might have a specific project or a specific thing that's going to take up a lot of your time. So maybe you say, Project X is my focus and anything else is a bonus. So take a moment, whether it's a sentence, a couple of words, one word, what is going to be your focus for Q2? Hello to the person who just joined. You will be getting the recording. You've missed the first little bit, but just dive straight in with a pen and paper. You've joined us at a great time to set your focus for Q2. Awesome. Okay, that's the first question. Next one. This relates to the challenge slide we talked about. What 1 to 2 challenges, and it could be challenges that came up pretty clearly in Q1. What 1 to 2 challenges will you need to focus on to unlock more flow in your work? Another way of saying that is what needs to be resolved or dealt with so that you can stop thinking about that and start focusing on the things that are more important to you. This could be a particular coworker, or it could be that you need to have a chat with your manager about something that's a little bit difficult. I remember years ago, I was being micromanaged by someone. I was really stopping my flow. So before I could actually get on with the rest of my work, I had to sit down and find a constructive way of having that conversation with that person about how their behavior of micromanaging me was not getting me the right outcomes. So have a think, hand on heart, and this can be difficult because some of these challenges are not comfortable. Usually a challenge will linger with us because it is uncomfortable to have to deal with it. So just ask yourself, what will you need to focus on solving or attempt to resolve to unlock flow in your work in Q2? Sometimes it can also be a challenge with ourselves. What do I need to stop believing, stop listening to, stop doing to make sure that Q2 is more productive, more happy, more helpful than Q1, if you had a difficult Q1. All right. Is there something, and we talked about this just before, is there something that you're good at, that you're currently doing a lot of, that you want to do less of? Could be something like organizing people and their time. It could be like setting up spreadsheets and templates for other people. It could be listening to people's problems, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but it could be if it's eating into your other work. Just because you happen to be a good listener doesn't mean you always have to be available to listen to people's challenges. So there might be more than one thing here, and this is just for your own eyes. So make sure that you write that down, and so you can come back to this and look at this as the months progress here in Q2. And if there is something that you listed on under point 3, when we get to this one, so what would you like to learn or focus on instead? So this is probably something that is exciting to you, something you're already doing that you really like, that you'd like to have more time and energy to do, or something that you want to learn more about. Could be a particular skill, a particular program, anything like that. So write down anything that you would like to learn and focus on instead of that thing that you listed before. Because if we just remove something, we're going to have this time. So what are we going to do with that time and that energy? And finally, this is an important one and we often forget it, but we've got to start with the end in mind. So how would you like to feel? Let's pretend that we have another one of these chats on the last of June, 2022. How would you like to feel? And an extension of that question could be, how would you know that the last 3 months were successful? What proof are you seeing? You know, is there some feedback in your world? Or is it just a feeling, you know, where you're feeling successful and accomplished and confident? And if you want to, quarterly reviews are incredibly powerful. Well, one thing that you can do that I often get my one-on-one clients to do is to copy the questions that you've got on your screen right now. You can even take a screenshot or take a screenshot in the recording later if you like. But you can literally take these questions and put them into a calendar, whether it's weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and have just 15 minutes of time with yourself when you're sitting down with your coffee and glance over these questions. And especially that last question, because if you set your intention now, we're in mid-April, come end of May, your life has probably gotten pretty busy and you might have very well forgotten about how you said that you wanted to feel at the end of June. So maybe pop a little reminder in sometime in late April, mid-May, late May, to keep you on track so that you can actually help yourself create that for yourself. So that was our little recalibration, but I also really encourage you to think about how balanced was your three-legged stool in Q1. It is not realistic that it's always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be perfectly balanced, but it is really helpful to look at where it might have been a little bit short. Was it too much challenge and not enough fun? Did you just get to work on things that you're good at, but those things that you don't really enjoy working on? So knowing that will help you unlock more professional flow, whether you're looking to change jobs or where you're happy where you are right now. Okay, so I just wanted to share this with you because this workshop is something I put together. We ran it back in March and in February, actually. We had some really great conversations. So if you are feeling like you need a little bit more and you would like to add to the stuff that we did today, then I've got a live online workshop coming up the week after Easter. It's online and it's a live interactive session. And the reason I created this is because for most people, in order to take action and create a plan, we actually need to have some inspiration and energy to do so. So it's a 90-minute live session held by a Zoom video. Don't worry, you do get a break in the middle. And we go through 3 different powerful exercises. So we're basically taking all the stuff you've done today, we take it to the next level. You also get a worksheet to track your answers in, and you get access to the recording, of course. So if you're interested in joining me on that one, it's only $27. Head over to thebridgecoaching.com.au/workshop. And remember that unless you take action, nothing will actually change. So if this is something that excites you or that you feel like you would need in your life and in your career, feel free to join me on the workshop and take that first little bit of step of action. So that leaves us with just a few minutes left. I would love to answer any questions that you have, any slides you would like me to go back to. Obviously, if you're watching the recording, please get in touch with me. If the workshop isn't quite right for you, or you want to talk about some support for yourself or your team at work, please head over to my website and book in a free call with me and we can chat about what your circumstances look like. But I just wanted to check in with you guys and see if you had any questions, any thoughts. Really refreshing. Thank you. Yeah, I try to keep it short and engaging because I know you guys are busy and I wanted to give you a short power session here for a lunchtime check-in and something that's not overly analytical. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Well, I'm sure that you have other things that you want to do with your day, but I wanted to acknowledge you. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. And go forth, spread the word, share this with a friend or a family member who needs to see this. And I really hope to hear from you if you need a little bit of more help in this area. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, a lovely weekend, and I will see you soon. Thanks, guys.